Hey everyone, I'm working to hit 1,000 subscribers, and I need your help to get there. If you enjoy this content, please hit that subscribe button right now.
What's going on, Mets fans? And I need everyone watching this video to pay very close attention because what I'm about to break down might be the most damning indictment of David Stearns yet. We're going to talk about Marcus Semien, the player the Mets got in return for Brandon Nimmo, and why there is absolutely no way, no possible scenario where Marcus Semien can replace what Brandon Nimmo brought to this organization. Hit that like button if you already know this trade was a disaster. And stick with me because by the end of this video, you're going to understand exactly how badly David Stearns miscalculated on this move. Let's start with the basics because I want to be fair to Marcus Semien. The guy has had a really good career. He was an all-star multiple times. He's been a productive player for years. At his peak, he was one of the better two-way shortstops in baseball, giving you offense and solid defense. Nobody is saying Marcus Semien is a bad player. That's not the argument. The argument is that Marcus Semien cannot and will not replace what Brandon Nimmo gave the Mets, and David Stearns should have understood that before making this trade. Here's the first and most obvious problem. Age. Brandon Nimmo is 31 years old. Marcus Semien is 35 years old. That's a 4-year difference, which in baseball terms is massive. When you're talking about players in their 30s, every year matters. Every year, the skills decline a little bit. The bat speed slows down. The range decreases. The recovery time from injuries gets longer. That's just the reality of aging in professional sports. Brandon Nimmo still has multiple years of prime production ahead of him. He's in that sweet spot where he's experienced enough to be consistently productive, but young enough that his physical tools haven't significantly declined yet. Marcus Semien, on the other hand, is already on the back nine of his career. He's already showing signs of decline. His numbers last season weren't terrible, but they weren't what they used to be either, and it's only going to get worse from here. So right off the bat, the Mets traded a player who could give them 4 or 5 more years of quality production for a player who might give them 2 years if they're lucky. If you're trying to win now and sustain success, how does that make any sense? You're shortening your competitive window for no reason. Now let's talk about positions because this is huge. Brandon Nimmo played center field. Center field is a premium defensive position. You need range, you need instincts, you need someone who can cover a lot of ground and track down balls in the gaps. It's one of the most important positions on the field defensively. And Nimmo was solid there. He wasn't going to win Gold Gloves, but he was a quality defender who could handle the position. Marcus Semien is a second baseman now. He used to play shortstop, but he's moved to second base because at 35 years old, he doesn't have the range or the arm to play shortstop effectively anymore. Second base is a less demanding defensive position. It requires less range and less athleticism. The fact that Semien had to move there tells you everything you need to know about where he is physically in his career. So the Mets traded their center fielder for a second baseman. That creates a hole in center field that now has to be filled. They're going to have to move players around or sign someone else or make another trade. They didn't solve a problem with this trade. They created a new one. How is that addition by subtraction? How is that making the roster better? Let's also talk about what each player brings offensively, because that's supposed to be where this trade makes sense, according to David Stearns' logic. Brandon Nimmo's calling card is his on-base percentage. The guy consistently gets on base at an elite level. His career OBP is over 360, and in some seasons he's been well over 400. He works counts, he takes walks, he finds ways to get on base, even when he's not hitting for a high average. That's incredibly valuable for a leadoff hitter. Marcus Semien can also get on base, but his approach is different. He's more of a power hitter who happens to hit leadoff sometimes. His on-base skills aren't at the same elite level as Nimmo's. And at 35 years old, coming off a season where his numbers were declining, there's real concern about whether he can maintain even his current level of production. Here's what people need to understand. Getting on base consistently is one of the hardest and most valuable skills in baseball. It doesn't decline as dramatically with age as power or speed, but it does decline. And Marcus Semien, who was never quite at Brandon Nimmo's level in terms of on-base skills, is now 4 years older and showing signs of decline across the board. The idea that he's going to come to New York and replicate what Nimmo did offensively is wishful thinking at best. Now let's talk about durability, because this is another area where Brandon Nimmo was exceptional. The guy played in at least 140 games in multiple seasons. He was available almost every single day. He was someone you could pencil into the lineup and know he was going to be there. That kind of durability has real value. It means you're not constantly shuffling your lineup. It means you're getting consistent production from that spot in the order. Marcus Semien has been durable throughout his career too, so I'll give him credit there. But he's 35. The injury risk goes up every single year once you hit your mid-30s. One bad hamstring, one nagging back issue, one collision in the field, and suddenly your season is derailed. And when that happens, the Mets won't have Brandon Nimmo to fall back on because David Stearns traded him away. Let me also address the intangibles, because this is where the gap between Nimmo and Semien becomes even more obvious. Brandon Nimmo was a Met through and through. He came up through their system. He understood what it meant to play in New York. He had relationships with teammates that went back years. He was a leader in the clubhouse. He knew the organization inside and out. That kind of institutional knowledge and cultural fit matters more than people realize. Marcus Semien is coming from Texas. He's never played in New York before. He's going to have to adjust to a new city, a new organization, a new set of expectations, and he's going to do all of that at age 35, when most players are thinking about winding down their careers, not adapting to new challenges. Maybe he handles it fine. Maybe he thrives. But there's real risk there that didn't exist with keeping Brandon Nimmo. Here's another thing that drives me crazy about this trade. The Mets had a need in center field. They needed someone who could play that position well. Brandon Nimmo filled that need. By trading him for a second baseman, they've now created a hole at a premium defensive position while filling a less important position. That's backwards roster construction. That's making your team worse at a critical spot to improve a less critical spot. How does that make sense? And let's talk about the contract situation, because this is where David Stern's small market thinking really shows. Brandon Nimmo was making about $20 million per year for the next 6 years. Marcus Semien is making less annually and has fewer years left on his deal. So Stearns looks at that and sees financial efficiency. He sees saving some money and gaining some payroll flexibility. But the Mets don't need payroll flexibility. Steve Cohen has unlimited money. The Mets could afford to keep Brandon Nimmo at $20 million per year and still spend whatever they want on other players. The financial savings from this trade are completely irrelevant given the resources available. But Stearns can't help himself. He sees a chance to create financial efficiency, and he takes it even though it makes no sense in the context of this organization. Now, I want to be very clear about something. Marcus Semien might have a decent season or two with the Mets. He might hit 20 home runs and play solid defense at second base. He might be a fine player, but fine doesn't replace what Brandon Nimmo brought. Fine doesn't make up for trading away a homegrown player in his prime who wanted to be here and was beloved by the fan base. The Mets needed to be getting better this offseason, not laterally moving or getting worse. They lost Pete Alonso. They lost Edwin Diaz. Trading Brandon Nimmo for Marcus Semien doesn't offset those losses. It compounds them. It's another move that makes the roster older and less stable and less equipped to compete for championships. And here's what's going to happen. Marcus Semien's going to come to New York, and the pressure is going to be immense. He's going to be compared to Brandon Nimmo every single day. Every time he makes an out, fans are going to wonder what Nimmo would have done in that situation. Every time he struggles defensively, fans are going to remember that Nimmo was solid in center field. The expectations are going to be impossible to meet because he's being asked to replace someone who was better and younger and more suited to this organization. Meanwhile, Brandon Nimmo is going to go to Texas and thrive. He's going to do exactly what he did with the Mets. He's going to get on base at an elite level. He's going to play solid center field. He's going to be durable and consistent, and Mets fans are going to watch it happen while Marcus Semien is struggling with the effects of age and the pressure of New York. This trade is indefensible. There's no way to justify it unless you're operating with a small market mentality that doesn't apply to the Mets. Marcus Semien cannot replace what Brandon Nimmo brought to this organization. The age difference alone makes that impossible. Add in the positional differences, the skill set differences, the cultural fit differences, and it becomes clear that this trade was a disaster from the moment it was conceived. David Stearns made this trade because he wanted to put his stamp on the roster and create financial flexibility that he doesn't actually need. He sacrificed a core player in his prime to bring in an aging veteran who might give them 2 decent years if they're lucky. That's not how you build a championship team when you have unlimited resources. That's how you squander competitive advantages and make your roster worse. So here's what I want from you. Do you think Marcus Semien can replace what Brandon Nimmo brought to the Mets? Do you think this trade is going to work out, or is it going to be another disaster we look back on with regret? Drop your honest thoughts in the comments, because I'm telling you right now, this trade is going to age terribly, and Marcus Semien is going to be a constant reminder of what the Mets lost when they traded Brandon Nimmo for no good reason. Hit that subscribe button for more content holding this front office accountable, and I'll see you